came here wearing your feelings on your sleeves and looking to get butt hurt, well, today you could very well be hitting the right place. Now, what I'm about to get into is gonna be tried to be done. Holy crap, I'm a little on the hot side. I'm gonna move it over here for a second so that we ain't burning things down. But gonna start this off with a warning that 1, I'm going to be quite frank. 2, I can't guarantee my language at all points. 3, I'm going to make some descriptions that may, well, let's face it, is not for children. And if you have a aversion or inability to handle descriptions of direct damage to living game animals, we're going to advise you now to just go away. Not to be an ass, but I'm going to be an ass. So with that, I'll be right back. So today what I want to talk about directly is cause and effect of exterior ballistics. And it is surrounding fallacies, I'll put it that way, fallacies surrounding ballistics as it relates to just about anything that ever comes through YouTube or Facebook or corporate media or anything like that people have in their stuff to talk about. And the number of things that are said, some are expected and some disappoint. Now, at this point, I'm going to try to talk about things not as somebody that has credentials per se. I have credentials, but I'm going to steal a little something from Paul Harrell, and I think I'm even going to steal a title sort of from Paul Harrell. But everything I'm about to tell you is based on my experiences, my knowledge, and quite frankly, based on observations, period. I'm not going to try, again, to spout what I do or do not know or my education level in any way, shape, or form. I'm going to try to approach this from a level of 1, a citizen, 2, by the simple inquisitive person who may or may not have any experience in what they're doing. I suspect some of them do, but right now, let's face it, there's a lot of people doing ballistic testing out there that are doing exactly what they should be doing. Taking a piece of ammunition and testing it by various reasons. Most of those are viable. Most of those have good, consistent ability to replicate itself, and some not so much. I'm not going to get too much into what I feel is good, useful information and effective, and those that I think are outright waste of time. Because it don't matter, because all of it's entertaining. And I may talk about some of those people along here, but here's where I'm getting at, and I'm talking about certain events surrounding 9/10. I hope that that's enough for most people to get it. I'm not going to try to be naming a ton of people, although I think one deserves naming. But I'm going to start this out by telling you what I don't know, and most of it's by purpose. I've tried to stay away from it because nonsense when it comes to the ballistic world and stuff that is said that isn't true, and I don't care who it may or may not be saying it, but there's a ton of stuff where there's a certain element that there is no way that people could not somehow know or heard something about something, and have already become biased by things said, completely wrong, completely right, completely whatever. It does not matter. And I'm going to take another side note here to go, at one point I would actually like to see a case of any substances that somebody was able to get from the beginning of hearing that it happened to a courtroom without being already either decided guilty or not guilty by the court of public opinion, because most of that court of a public opinion has already developed their mindset before they ever walked in a courtroom, because there's no flipping way to avoid it. Now, I'm going to start out by telling you what I don't know, because I think that's fair to do. What I don't know is specific about weapons, other than what little bit chirps of here and there and thumbnails I've seen. I don't know specifics about scoping, whatever. I'm not going to get even into the equipment part of it and whether that is possible or impossible. I just know that a lot of things have been said, rumorish, that don't make sense. But I'm going to go fast forward and I'm going to talk about ballistics. And I'm going to talk about ballistics alone. Now, I think it's warm enough I can move you back over here. But what am I ranting about? Well, one, I've already had difficulty through written word trying to express things directly, and I'm going to get this there. That's about right. Sorry, I have to look at myself. I'm just using a cell phone. I don't have a camera person. It is what it is. But recently I learned I can't even explain the simplest of things and have somebody not bring it back up again. And one of them is, if you have any knowledge of all of ballistics, and I don't think you need to be any expert to know this, there are certain laws of internal and external ballistics you cannot break. And I'm going to lean on two rules of external ballistics at the point of leaving off of internal ballistics. And that is, you've reached your max velocity when you leave a barrel. Anybody want to argue that? Once that has gone away from the combustion, you've left the barrel. It's the most you're going to get out of whatever it is that's coming out at that time. The rules I'm going to refer to is, once that bullet leaves the barrel and it's on a level plane, laser level plane, it doesn't matter if it's on that or not. Once it leaves the bullet, two things are going to happen. You can't change it. A, the bullet's automatically going to start slowing down. And B, it's going to start dropping. Gravity is a law that nobody is going to overcome. Okay, and I'm sorry, I just said an absolute. Gravity, you're just not going to... okay, enough said. So, case in point, a while back, and it's quite a while back, I talked about bullet construction and how important it is and relevant to what you're doing. And I used a case in point of a 30-30 Winchester. Now this is a factory Federal 30-30 Winchester with a bullet specifically intended to be put on top of this. So let's go back just a second. There's three main components to this cartridge. It's a source of ignition, which is the primer. It is the vessel, aka the case, and it is the projectile, bullet. Now, at the time, what I was trying to talk about is all the people that want to talk about 30-30 Winchester being automatically a longer range hunting bullet or cartridge overall, just by going to spire point bullets. Well, I set out to, I don't know if I really started out to prove or disprove anything, because let's face it, less wind resistance will, all things created equal, help something carry longer with less resistance, right? Air resistance, or better, sleeker profile. Got me? So at the time, I was talking about one of my hand-loaded 30-30 Winchesters prior to rechambering that particular rifle to Ackley Improved, in which I got this outfit to start out from leaving the barrel at 2,450 feet per second per average. Now let's give this federal case the benefit of the doubt that it reaches 2,350. Let's give it that benefit of the doubt. I don't know what this does right now from that rifle. Don't care. It doesn't matter. Right? But I'm going to try to dumb this down for a second. I ultimately let them know that yes, it was successful at reaching out to pronghorn distance, and where I killed some pronghorn, but it took shots, not a shot, to finish the job, and a white tail or something. Right now, what it was I was hunting doesn't matter. It was required more than one shot. Simple reason was, well, I'm not going to get into the reason was. I automatically started getting comments about 30-30's been killing game forever. What the hell are you talking about? Blah, 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 blah. Well, it's simple. I'm going to dumb this down for you. And I'm not trying to tell you everybody's dumb, but in this case, I'm going to dumb it down. 30-30 Winchester. Let's give it 1994, the date of introduction with the 94 Winchester was the first truly smokeless powder cartridge. Correct? So at 1994, they've had a lot of time to work at it. Its max velocity, generally speaking, for the 150s to the 170s is about 2,350 on an average best out of the standard 20-inch to 22-inch barrel. Again, not an exact science, because every barrel's the same, not the same. Every rifle's not the same. Variants can change that issue. So basically, this thing starts and is made to do its work as a projectile bullet and perform its energy delivery at the velocity that it starts at and less. This bullet is a nozzler partition. This thing's been loaded for years, but it's still a nozzler partition. Its intended design was velocities that started above it, and it starts to run out of its sufficient ability to deliver the appropriate amount of energy to make this bullet work. Every bullet runs to that point. No matter what velocity it starts, no matter what velocity it's meant to do it, at some point that bullet's going to run out of enough energy to mushroom, as these two were intended to do. The problem is this one runs somewhere between if you go by their advertisement, somewhere between 2,000 and some expected as high as 2,300. Again, not an exact science, because a lot of times manufacturers will screw with your head and lie to you, period. So every test, when you start out with an unknown source, is a crapshoot that you have to learn through testing. With me so far? So again, this one here, practically at the end of its energy cycle or ability to deliver the energy effectively, where this one is at its beginning. I know somebody's going to haggle with that, but too damn bad. It's pretty damn close to being as simple as I can put it. Now, why am I talking about that part to get to the next part? One, from the time I get past this, I'm no longer talking about specifically a cartridge as I mentioned a cartridge. So first of all, this is one of my custom hand loads. It is a Barnes X bullet from before Barnes X had a TTN thing added to it, before it ever had a groove relief, and this bullet leaves out of the specific gun that I put it and designed it for, and I don't even like the word design, worked on to make it the best it could be in, was a pattern 17 Remington factory made 30-06 with the full 25.5-inch barrel. I never cut it down. It had great rifling in it. It did get a McMillan signature stock and glass bedded and all that kind of stuff. But that bullet left that rifle at that length, that specific rifle at that length, at 3,211 feet per second. Now, that's all well and good, but I would never recommend anybody else just grabbing this cartridge and going to that and putting it in their chamber, because quite frankly, this I know works in one, a thing of one. I can't speak specifically what it would do in somebody else's gun. There's so many different variables that could or could not go right that I just don't recommend anybody using it. So the next one I am going to bring up is some random, unknown to me, federal piece of federal ammunition I picked up somewhere, somewhere, somehow, and just said, yeah, I'll take it, because it was factory ammo, and all I really need it for is a vessel or a case. I can shoot this on a range one day just for the heck of it, to pop it off, and I have an empty case to go with. Let's toss that to a side. I'm done with cases, or that case. So I'm going to take and I'm going to go to this case. Again, 30-06. In this case, the only thing I can tell you is it's advertised as a 150 grain bullet from the factory, or should I say the manufacturer, that advertises 3,100 feet per second for the same weight wool I got over here. Now, that's pretty good advertised velocities. Doesn't mean that's what we're going to get out of your rifle, because every rifle, every chamber, every barrel length is different. You can't just generalize it. You have to really specifically learn what it does. And at this point, I'm not going to tell you the manufacturer. Now, as I told you, I've tried to avoid this subject like the plague, and because that's, quite frankly, I knew people were going to say fallacies, and there's certain people I expect that fallacy from. And I made the mistake of clicking on a man by the name of Jimmy Dore's channel. And yes, it's a shock. I like to watch Jimmy Dore, if you happen to know him. And I watch him specifically because he does have a different mindset. I'm not going to talk about which side of the fence you're on. Right now, I'm just saying, if you want to be informed, it's valuable to hear it. Information, period. Now, I can tell you, and I'm not telling on Jimmy Dore, but at one time, Jimmy Dore was a hardened Bernie Sanders supporter. Again, doesn't matter. At this point, that don't matter. He just has a different outlook on things than what you or I may have. And I clicked on him. I got suckered in because he was talking about the 9/10 event, and in which he got talking about the awesomest power of 30-06 and that its ability was, which him and his sidekick right now is Kurt Metzger. Both of them are technically by profession are comedics or stand-up comics. Jimmy Dore for a while was working as a reporter for the Young Turks. I don't know all of his experiences, doesn't matter again, but by the time they did it, they basically said, well, there are things happening that's just downright impossible, and the 30-06 is of such incredible power that everybody is saying, and then he started rattling off U.S. Marine sniper chimed in, a blah, blah, blah chimed in, another blah, blah, and all of them are agreeing that the awesomest power of the 30-06 made it impossible for anything other than a through and through of some sort blowing out the neck, and actually speculated it would sever you from your other extremities or body parts. Now, like I said, there's certain people that I know who's never pulled the trigger that go with things that they don't know one way or the other, and I can't blame them. If you've never had an experience, you go by what people are saying around you. One time, like I said, one time I'd like to see a court case of any sort actually make with real evidence to the court, but nonetheless, I made the mistake of watching it, and I just kind of went and went kind of, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use words that don't make a lot of sense, but I kind of went, okay, I expect this, woosa, don't hold it against him, woosa. Well, then somebody cropped up, because I'd watched that I had not originally seen this initial thing, but it cropped up immediately, and because of who it was and the company involved, I went, oh, this could be interesting, because this guy should have a voice of common sense, and I decided to click on it, in which I can't describe it as any more as completely disappointed. And then the more I listened to it, the madder I got. As a matter of fact, this is now 4 days. It's taken me this long of trying to get past it, blowing off steam yesterday, and then going to the rifle range and having a fairly decent day today, in which this manufacturer of ammunition, word for word, almost said the exact same thing as Jimmy Dore. He stated in no uncertain term that 30-06 will blow through an elk, a moose, grizzly bear, the whole 9 yards. And only part of that's true, in my opinion. Again, I'm going based on my opinion, my experiences, my observations, and then, of course, what I do have for knowledge in this. And right now, all I'm going to do is express this as a hunter and ex-guide who has gotten to not only kill a lot of game, no, not African elephants, not Cape buffalo, not inland or England or kudu buck, no, whatever the hell. No, my experience is in medium to large game, small game, of course, but the large game is elk, moose, bear, bighorn sheep, whitetail, mule deer, pronghorn antelope. Enough said? The problem with that theory and having an expert is the .30 caliber, which we can honestly say we know has been around at least since 1892. The jacketed lead core bullets have been around forever. Today, fast forward to today, there is literally, this is actually the most versatile availability as far as available bullets of various weights on the market today. There is, I don't know how I could count how many different manufacturers have created bullets that fit this. And I'm going to say, I know that I've seen bullets everywhere from 55 grains clear up to 220. And for this sake of argument, I'm going to disregard the 55 grain because that's making a reference to a system back in the late 70s and 80s that most people don't know about, which was known and it was available in factory ammunition, known as the 30-06 accelerator, which originally I believe the first accelerator was in 30-30, but nonetheless, it was a sabot encased over a 22 caliber 55 grain bullet. For the most part, it was pretty ineffective, not because it was a bad bullet in it, but it was pretty ineffective because the combo in most rifles, it really didn't shoot well from. And of course, now I'm dabbling in rumors, so I'm not talking about facts, but it was dabbled in rumors that the reason it was kind of went away was because it was forensically hard to find and prove. Don't know if that's true or not. I don't have any secret insight to what manufacturers have done, so but for the purpose of this, we are going to disregard it. Now, there's some generalizations. There's bullets that are designed to run at this velocity. There's the bullets that are designed to run at this velocity and higher. There are bullets that are designed to run at subsonic. There are bullets that were designed and intended to explode on impact. And there was bullets that were designed to go in and so far dump its energy and never come out the other end. Doesn't matter why, because if I get too graphic at what the idea was, I don't want to be too graphic. But the truth of the matter is that the way you spot a fake, again, I'm going to steal this from Paul Harrell, the way to spot a fake politician is to talk in absolutes, period. This is not a guessing game. It's anybody that would say a 30-06 is capable of, yes, it's capable of, but to come out with it's the only outcome that could be is ridiculous. Now, I'm going to give an example of the 30-06 in action that I can tell you with a shadow of doubt it happened right before my eyes. Again, without trying to tell you where I got my knowledge from, I strongly suggested to the person not to use it. And a long story short, I'm reintroducing 2.5B better. And if you don't remember my first original story about 2.5B better, he got his nickname because I had taken the time to help him sight in a brand spanking new rifle, explain to him how point blank ranging is meant to work without getting in details and trying to teach everybody in the internet what point blank ranging really does. But I got done with it. I got his rifle set at about 1.8 inches high at the velocities that I had finally determined they were at, and I set it up for him. He test fired it, great groups, the whole 9 yards, and then of all things, a few weeks later he reaches out to my dad And he says, is there something wrong with Steve? Because everything he told me is not working. And I'm like, oh, because you already know my name's Steven, but the mountain man, you know, basically everything he told me is not working. And I'm like, huh. And my dad didn't know what I was talking about. And I explained it to my father, what I had done and how it worked. And he says, okay, that makes sense. Went back to the individual in question, old 2.5 Be Better. And what he did is he all of a sudden on his own decided that 2 inches was great. He raised it to a little over 4 inches for a impact at 100 inches, or at 100 yards, excuse me. And from that day on, I've always called him 2.5 would be better. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but shortly after this event, we lived in an area that was pronghorn aplenty, and 2.5 Be Better bought himself one of the Lee load-all kits to reload his 30-06. And unbeknownst to me, he went to reloading. He bought some powder and primer and went to reloading. And when he got all said and done, he was using the data from that kit. And if you are familiar with the kit, it comes with a pre-measuring, a scoop measure, and in most cases, and load data to follow. And when he got done, he presented me this completed group of completed cartridges, and I said something to, he said something to the effect, yeah, this is going to be great. I'm getting 3,000 feet per second out of it. The only problem is he didn't own a chronograph. He didn't, I don't believe at that time even knew what a chronograph was. And at that time, I didn't even own a chronograph. If I wanted to do work, I had to work with somebody I knew that did. And at that time, I didn't own one. So I basically, at the time, I said, well, how do you, I asked him the straight up question, how do you know it's getting 3,000 feet per second? And he pulled out his data sheet that he got. And he said, this is the load I'm using right here, and it says it'll get 3,000 feet per second. Now, I'm going to leave all the bad words out of it that I left, but you know that load data is not gospel. And the bullet that he had in it, I looked at and I went, can I see the box of bullets that you bought? And he showed me. And at this point, I'm not going to tell you it because I think it's going to be fun. Well, this young fella, I say young, he was older than I was. How about that? Immediately tried to get an antelope with it. I would say at a distance of somewhere between 250 to 300 yards. At this point, I can't remember exactly what I had estimated the distance, but basically you could see impact pretty evident, and that antelope required a second shot. And I did not allow him to use the same rifle. He proceeded to go, well, look, you know, think it was a great deal. He still thought it was a great deal. And later that day got shot a second antelope. Same thing. Now, in this case, I'm going to specifically try to describe you the scene of one of those antelope. I'm not going to go through both of them, but I'm going to go through one of them. That pronghorn antelope had a patch of hair like this, gone. I'm talking just hair. There was a sizable hole on the surface of the hide like that, and there was at least 2 ribs exposed. Yet none of the fragments made it to anything important. Anybody got any guesses what that projectile was? Give me a minute to think about it. Okay, you're done thinking. The projectile was a Sierra Match King 150 grain hollow point. Let that sink in for a minute. For those that know what I'm talking about, let that sink in there for a minute. Again, all ammunition is not created equal. The next example I'm going to bring up, and there's going to be some people that may disagree with me, and there may have been some upgrades in the ammunition since my experiences and knowledges with it. But I run across a YouTuber, and quite frankly, I have a lot of respect for this YouTuber for what he does well. But like me, he has biases and opinions, and he set out to prove that the 4570 government was a far better deer hunting combination than a 30-06. So he tended to go to a water jug test. Now, a water jug test is a good source of learning stuff from, but it's not necessarily in any way relevant to living tissue. It's another one of those things I was talking about. It's consistent and well-informing, but not necessarily relevant. Get my point? But in that test, I believe it was 2 different cast bullets. One was soft because he was running regular pressured stuff at the time, as I remember it. But regular pressured cast and a heavier hard cast, and of course water jug and lead in the 4570 does what it's supposed to do pretty well. It's not, even that though, is not consistent, because we know that profile can even change some of what goes on with a hard cast bullet as far as energy delivered and effects. But what he compared it to was 2 ammos, factory ammos. The first one was 150 grains fire point, and it hit there, got through a jug and a half as I remember it, and very little of the original bullet was left. Most of the bullet fragmented into pieces, and of course was at the bottom of the second jug, again as I remember it. The other bullet he used, or factory ammunition, was from the exact same company, only it was full metal jacket. And he fired, and all this is being fired at a distance that turned water to vapor, and you would end up wet. He was so close to it. But the second bullet, which was a full metal jacket of all things, shot it into that first gallon of jug, and it fragmented within the first jug. It was worse performance than it was with the lead cord exposed tipped one was. Based on that information alone, that specific ammunition, if fired from a 30-06 and hit gristled and tendonized and bone, possibly bone, cartilage type of spot, I can see that failing in the same manner, or at least close to the same manner. But to have somebody, anybody, try to say all the ammo is created equal when we know that there's thousands of these things made in just components alone, and who knows how many hundreds, I don't know how many hundreds of them are, but I know that I can get ammo from one company that claims that it will do things, and they will lie. It's a bald-faced lie when you test it. So at this point, to make such a goddamn dumb statement as that, and I am going to call this guy out by name. He's much bigger than I am. His pockets are full. He could sue me all he wants. This is my opinion, and I'm telling you the way I see it. This is dumbery to the extremist level, that he made the exact same statement as Jimmy Dore. This will, a 30-06 will, and under no on circumstances do this, and there will not ever be not an exit hole. And if it hits bone, it's going to get worse. The name of the man and the company is Tim Sundles. You can look it up. It's one of his most recent ones. There's a bunch of other stuff he said that I 100% disagree with. There's very few people I disagree with. But I kind of quit watching mostly Tim Sundles because it turned out that every one of his shows wasn't necessarily about performance or generalizations. It was about how many guns of this caliber he has and the recommended ammo for from his company. Almost every one. Oh, this gun will do this, provided that. But for somebody who basically was telling anybody who had criticized him in the first video, which he graciously played his first video and then played his second. So I never seen the first video originally, but I seen the second video, and he started it out with the first video to follow it up by the second video to tell anybody who called him out on what he was saying. Not only was credentialed enough, he used words that at the basis I know what he was saying, but he wasn't even saying it. You know, I'm a genuine, bona fide, blah, 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 turkey plucker from Podunk, hillbilly, whatever, is basically the kind of language he was. But he would like Bonifides or Bonafides or whatever. He says, you don't need to criticize me or even address me unless you can cite your Bonafides or Bonifides. And I was like, let me put it this way. If I'm sitting on the jury box with my experience of seeing multiple animals, not just the ones I've taken, customers have taken, the different animals they brought, the different this they brought, to talk in absolutes is fucking moronic. Especially for somebody that claims to be a designer of ammunition. And quite frankly, at this point, I think he's got somebody within the system that's doing it for him, because if he could make that kind of a generalization, he's never experienced before he found what the hell he was looking for. At least that's the impression he left. It was that moronic. And I guarantee you, if he just was the forensic ballistic expert on the witness stand and he made that statement, I'm done with the trial. I'm already, my biases is enough to, and of course a prosecutor and a defense lawyers, which most of them don't have enough knowledge to ask specifics of how he come to that conclusion. But if I had one of those expert witnesses sitting on the witness stand and he went and talked in generalizations and made open-ended statements like that, or I guess that would be a close-ended statement like that, I'm done with it. I'm going to tell you, I'm biased enough that I could not convict on ballistic evidence alone in that trial. If he would have had been a doctor and made that same diagnosis as one size fits all and never took the proper frickin' testing ahead of time and made a diagnosis, that would be mal-frickin' practice. I'm telling you, at this point, I've changed his name or his acronym to FTS. Reminiscent of, you know, that other famous politician who told the world that a 9mm bullet was so goddamn powerful that somehow magically it released a cable with a grappling hook at the back and would suck the lungs completely out of the goddamn chest. And right now, he ain't no goddamn better than him. Because, again, if I didn't make myself clear, to make a absolute, definitive, only one size fits all solution to the cartridge capabilities, and we all know what its capabilities is, and we also know what its capabilities aren't, if you have any. But right now, the so-called unbonifides who only have curiosity up here don't go into that situation going, hey, I have preconceived notions of what this is going to do. They will say that sometimes, but ultimately the only reason they're there is to actually test it, put it to the test, and find out. And there's more failures than people really care to admit. There's successes, and of course most cases they're using imperfect, in my opinion, imperfect, because you can't replicate living bone, cartilage, sinew, tendons, whatever you want to call, and a beating vascular system to gel, or even a dead pig. Dead pig is okay, but it's still not going to give you the different angles, the different times of in the respiratory system, the different reactions, the different everything accurately compared to living tissue. I'm not done. A lot of people like to use the term he doubled down on it. Well, he already doubled down on it when he said it the first video, replayed it, and then turned around and reiterated it in his video. So basically, 2 times, let's keep it to the 2 times. He played the first video, reiterated how he was there, and anybody who argued with him was stupid. But then he turned around, and again, I'm staying with Bullet, turned around and said the only way anything like that could happen is somebody custom built a prefrag bullet. Custom build a prefrag bullet was the only way it could happen. Now, again, we know that there are bullets designed to blow up on impact for reasons because of safety on ranges that may not have the best of safety situations at long distance, and they do not want that thing going anywhere. There are bullets that are made to go into smaller animals that are going in there and designed not to make more holes than one. There are bullets that are designed to run at subsonic, hypersonic, blah, blah, blah. It all happens and can happen. In this case, everything that he said was impossible is very plausible. And if you don't know that, you can't, there's only one other way. His Bonifidees are bullshit. I'm sorry, but I ain't got no use for that motherfucker anymore. I'm sorry, that's just the way I see it. There was videos I was starting to watch, about corruption. His wife is an ex prosecutor, or is a lawyer of the state that somehow I kept myself apparently out of trouble enough I never met. But okay, maybe I don't know anything about personality. I don't know how that person was as a prosecutor. They said things that could very much be viable and correct on that situation. And again, I don't know because I've tried to stay away from it. I just know what he said about bullets and what the 30-06 cartridge does all the time is lost. So I implore you, one time, go watch that video, because it's labored under the person in question on 910, and then a live chat combined afterwards, so that I'm not telling you something that's not true. You need to see it for yourself. I've spent, right now, that was out at the range today shooting some of that ammo up, and I found things out about his components I hadn't paid attention to. I'll talk more about that at a different time. But at this point, I'm done. There ain't nothing that man can say I will trust, ever, based on that. And oh, by the way, the Paul Harrell thing, how to spot a fake gun expert, even he came to the synopsis that somebody that talks in absolutes and can't be in only one way it can be is the easiest way to spot it. Enough said. Real quick, I feel, and I know it's been a long video already, but real quick, I feel the need to do addendum to some of the things I neglected to say and elaborate a little bit more on things I forgot to say, or whatever. Before my battery runs out. One, I neglected to tell you the ammo in question in that water bottle test was Federal American Eagle. And again, and I'm using my memory, and things may have been proved, but as I remember it, when American Federal Eagle came out, it was at a time when ammo shortage was hard to come by, and it was a poorly, I guess I'll try to use the right word. It was put together as an inexpensive option to continue to be able to practice. It was never at that time intended to be anything that would be considered a great hunting ammo. It was main purpose was inexpensive and keeping people at the range. Two, I don't know if I said this enough, but in the multiple options of weights and whatnot, if let's say we narrow it down to that 150 grains, which we have no idea that that's true, but there was multiple objective intentions in the way that ammo or bullet construction was intended to perform. There was failures and, of course, positive outcomes from that stuff. In my last point, I think this is probably the most important point, and I would say this directly to Tim Sundles if he was standing right here, is if what he is saying that all ammo is created equal for the same outcome, then why in the good God's name would I spend his exorbitant prices to get ammo that does the same thing? When, instead of $80 for a box of 35 Whelen, I can go out and get the same thing for 55 or 35. Who cares? If it all works the same, there's no good excuse to spend that extra money for his stuff. You made it this far. Well, you're way more patient than I am. I, of course, as you can tell, was hot under the collar, and that was after I calmed down. And one size doesn't fit all. You can argue with me all you want, but one size doesn't fit at all. There's multiple reasons why people designed what they did. Whether it worked right or not, well, that's a crapshoot, to be honest, because until you've got experience with it, you don't know that it does what it says it will. For me, most of my ballistic testing was on real life things, and I've seen a lot of failures. Some of them where they were at velocities they should easily perform at and just blew through. Some of them that were below velocities they were supposed to be and fell apart. There's no guarantee if you're taking and buying factory ammo, and I'm trying to stay as close as I can to factory, but there is no guarantee that what you get from one, even so much as one box of PowerPoint Winchester from the thing, that 20 years from now that you buy another box of PowerPoint of the same supposed design, that you're going to get equal, with the components together, equal performance levels. It's just that simple is what I'm trying to say. It does not all fit in one peg.